Oh, hello there, everyone, and good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. And guess what? I'm Mr. Warren Hayes, and we are going to be talking about is a brand new word. I don't know if you heard it. It's the cool word that all the cool kids are using on all the cool streets. We're going to be talking about professional wrestling here tonight on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes tonight, July 15, 2021. And I am thrilled to the gills. Like if I had gills, if I was like some kind of weird fish creature, I would be thrilled up to my gills. Would that allow me to live underwater, which would make streaming a little strange and difficult because I'd be underwater. I'd be choking to death right now if I were doing this like right here live. But you know, on the opposite side, you know, you can also on the opposite side, you know, you can also you could also say streaming underwater would be very cool. Like I could probably get some really neat high-tech equipment, right? That'd be pretty boss. That would be pretty cool. I don't know. It's the heat. God, it's hot today. I'm going to be sweating bullets by the end of this podcast. I'm telling you that much. But I'm going to do it because I love to talk about wrestling, and I love to talk and joined by a wonderful group of people, which is always the case on every Thursday night right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, where we record live at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific time. We got Tim Traver, who's joining us here tonight. Good to see you, Tim. Kelly Tonehats, it's nice to see you as well. DGMC and Phantom Arc 82 who are here. Good to see you guys. Phantom Arc 82, of course, supplies us with wonderful music takes throughout the entire Mr. Warren Hayes Show. If you join live and you get in here in time for the pre-roll, you get to hear his great music. You should actually follow him on his YouTube page, but also he has a Facebook page now set up. Facebook.com, Phantom Arc 82. Go show our boy Ben some support and love here. Flowman is here. Good to see you as well. 5th generation Carney Joseph with it. Hello. We got Zach Barber was here as well. How you doing, Zach? Who else we got? Got Aaron Entertainment who popped in. Nice to see you. Robert Larry. Evan Wright is here as well. Look at all these fun people joining us here live on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. You gotta love it. You gotta appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone showing up here tonight. You know what else I appreciate? If you give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you're first time popping in here, a subscription, that's also great as well. The stuff is really, really useful, and it helps grow the channel, and I appreciate it a great deal. Plus, on top of that, if you want, right, and you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, which is also possible, well, why don't you jump in onto the whatever podcast app you're listening to and leave a review? Someone left a lovely review on Apple Podcasts just last week. I'm like, man, it doesn't take much to make a content creator happy. It really doesn't. You know, I don't know if you guys are into back rubs. I'm into neck rubs. I like my neck being rubbed and massaged. I really like that. Like if you want to get on my good side, and you know we're intimate like that, rub my neck. That's stuff but we're not that intimate, you know? So if you want to get, you know, if you want to make me happy, don't rub my neck, leave a review. That's kind of the thing. But I really appreciate any form of support, any type of love that you can show. I really and sincerely appreciate it. I also want you guys to remember to follow us, follow what we do over at belltobells.com. That's BELLTOBELLES.com. It's your women's wrestling wire. Women's wrestling is a cool thing. And I've got some really cool stuff stacked up for it. Me and Kristen do, actually. And I can't wait to share it with y'all. So be sure to hang around Bell to Bells. Follow us on Twitter at Bell to Bells as well. And that's fantastic. And join the Discord, the Mr. Warren Hayes Discord. Lots of great chat. Lots of great wrestling discussion, of course. But we don't just talk about pro wrestling there. We talk about video games, Marvel stuff, Loki, right? That was a thing. Don't know if you heard. All sorts of stuff happening. Great section on food and drink as well. Just jump in. Say hello. Link is in the description if you want to do that. Hey, Saturday, this weekend, on top of everything, there's a pay-per-view, WWE pay-per-view, Money in the Bank is happening this Sunday, or as the kids say, Sunday. And I am going to be, of course, doing a podcast for a prediction show, and I'm going to be joined by Alex McCarthy of Talk Sport over there in the UK. And that'll be exciting. First time I get to, I've chatted with Alex in the past, informally, but this is going to be our first time sharing a podcast space together. So that's going to be cool. We're starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So that's it's like 8 Pacific. That's early for all y'all on the West Coast. But we'll be doing that at 11 a.m. this Saturday. Alex McCarthy and me talking about Money in the Bank. So that's going to be some cool stuff. Tonight I'm also, listen to this. Free preview. Tonight, once we're done here with the Mr. Warren Hayes show proper, as many of you know, I do a podcast, a post-stream, another podcast basically, just for the YouTube members, exclusively for them. Well, I'm giving it away as a free preview tonight. Free preview for you tonight. That's going to be amazing. It's going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be happening this weekend. It's going to be happening immediately after the show. Come and join us. Super interactive. I talk a lot with the chat. We take some Discord calls as well. And we're going to be talking about Money in the Bank. So we're going to be talking about who do you think is going to win the men's Money in the Bank ladder match? Who's going to win the women's Money in the Bank ladder match? What match are you most looking forward to? Come and tell us. Come and join me. I talk about YouTube membership quite a bit. And if this is something that you're like, hey, this might interest me, but I don't know what these post shows look like, come on over. It's a free preview. You can't go wrong. Come and hang out immediately once we're done talking about all the stuff that I'm going to be talking about here tonight. And I appreciate it. So maybe, if you want to become a member, chef's kiss, that would be fantastic. But tonight, it's open for everyone. Free preview. And then after you're like, this is cool, I want to do this again, become a member. That's how we do it. And you can also leave us a super chat. And I will read your question or comment live on the air as well. I want to say hello to Chris Jacobs, who's joined us in the chat. The Streak Saver is here. Good to see you. Good to see everyone here tonight. Oh, and here's something. I was mentioning the Discord earlier. Come on in, join us. We've got a community event happening this weekend. I wasn't fully aware. I didn't know it came together unless Evan is trolling me. I don't think so, although he could also be. But I think this is actually a thing. Evan Wright, who joins us frequently in the chat, and who is a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, along with Anakin JMT, who is also a member and a moderator. And on top of that, they will be hosting a community. We'll be hosting a community Slammiversary, Impact Slammiversary preview show on the Discord stages, which is going to be, which is basically like a Twitter Spaces kind of thing, but for Discord. So you can come in and so it's voice chat. We're going to have the boys there. We're going to be setting that up for the community this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Come and join them. That'll be fantastic. The link is in the description for the Discord. I mean, if you're not a member of the Discord yet, I don't know what else you want. Do you want me to send you cookies? I can send you cookies if you're going to join the Discord. But then, I'm also very wary about taking your personal information. So we'll figure something out. We'll figure something out. Lots of stuff going on in the community. Conrad from Everything Pro Wrestling just jumped in. How you doing, Conrad? It's good to see you. And before we actually jump into the weekly wrestling inspection per se, a couple of news items that we do that I just want to touch on, that I do want to talk about. First and foremost, of course, this week We learned that Mr. Wonderful Orndorff passed away at the age of 71 years old. It was revealed by his son Travis on Instagram that who announced the sad passing of Paul Orndorff. I mean, as a guy who, was around back in the 80s watching wrestling as a kid, Orndorff was just one of those dudes who stuck with you because of his physique, his charisma, and what a career nonetheless he had. Accomplished football player that made the transition to professional wrestling after being drafted, I think, by the New Orleans Saints. He trained in Florida, trained under Jack Briscoe, Hiro Matsuda, which I didn't know until I started researching for this. Bob Backlund and Eddie Graham as well. Worked in Memphis, Mid-South, Mid-Atlantic, Georgia Championship Wrestling, and joined the WWF in 1983. And before that, he had a tag team in Mid-South with Ted DiBiase, winning the Mid-South tag team titles against Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy in 1980. I think he even teamed with the Junkyard Dog in that same area. He was a single star in Mid-South, 5-time North American heavyweight champion, beginning in May 1978, and formed a team with Jimmy Snuka in Mid-Atlantic. I mean, he was all over the place, and he worked with a whole bunch of the greats. Of course, joining the WWF after that, when he joined in Vince McMahon's national expansion plans. Orndorff was one of the principal individuals involved in the promotion of the very first WrestleMania. Of course, he teamed with Roddy Piper against Hulk Hogan and Mr. T at the inaugural WrestleMania in '85. But then on top of that, he is one of the key components that made not WrestleMania, but Hulkamania work. He was the complete diametric opposite of Hulk Hogan. Yeah, I mean, in attitude, right? Like, he was still charismatic, a body guy, sure, all of that, but Orndorff was, in personality, the perfect foil for Hulk Hogan. If I remember correctly, after the WrestleMania match, Roddy Piper blamed Orndorff for the loss, so that led into an angle where Orndorff aligned with Hulk Hogan, only to turn on Hogan after that, and Orndorff joined the Heenan family. So, he was perfect in this type of situation to be the heel, and especially a fantastic foil for Hulk Hogan. And of course, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have read a lot of the history of Paul Orndorff. Of course, he headlined the big event in Toronto at the Toronto Exhibition Stadium back in 86, where the event drew like 70. WWE says I think 74,000 people drew, but I think there was like 61,000 paid. Look, I mean, these are details. It was a huge event, and he was in the headline. He was main eventing with Hogan. And he left WWE in 1988, where he'd wrestle in multiple places, and his last major run was with WCW in late 1992, where he formed the Pretty Wonderful team with Paul Roma. what a way to go! But he transitioned out of the ring in 1995. Started working as an agent for WCW, and I think it's around this period where the legend, the big story popped up, where he knocked Vader down got into a fight with him and just clocked him down. I mean, he had an incredible career. Was struggling with health issues. He had a few years ago. We learned that he had throat cancer, which he was able to battle through, which is absolutely fantastic. But his health was really deteriorating. A few years ago, Bieber and Blair, in some interviews, he was talking about how Orndorff's memory was starting to fail him, having a lot of memory issues, and it was just some sad news. Just some sad news. 71 years old for Mr. Paul Orndorff. And of course, WWE pulled up the graphic, right? And you kind of wonder, well, why didn't they do anything bigger for Orndorff? Which they should have. They should have done something bigger for him. Because he was an instrumental part in a lot of in a lot of Vince's development plans. Maybe Hogan was the star, but you rarely make a wrestling star on the back of only one guy. Orndorff played important parts in building Hulkamania at two separate occasions, pre and post WrestleMania 1. Once Hogan got won the championship off of the Iron Sheik, Orndorff was one of his regular foils, one of his regular enemies who, they'd fight and they'd never really get a clean win. There'd always be, the countouts or disqualifications. At that time, Hogan wrestled the Masked Superstar a lot and Orndorff. Then WrestleMania 1 rolls along. And then post-WrestleMania, they're back with Orndorff, feuding with Hogan. So, there's a lot of what WWF built. He had a hand in that. Orndorff had a hand in that. The problem is that he was part of that concussion lawsuit that was dismissed a couple of years ago, 2018, 2019, something like that. He was part of that. So, unfortunately, this is a guy who is a legitimate legend for the company. This is a guy who's worked the business everywhere, and a guy upon which a lot of the foundations of what we know today is for wrestling was a guy who helped build all of that, basically. So, sad passing. One of the greats, Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, 71 years old. Of course, my condolences go out to all of his family, friends, anyone who survives them. He will be missed. Another bit of news that I just touch on very briefly, because there hasn't been really more to chew on right now, but it was revealed earlier this week that Candy Cartwright dropped her lawsuit against Matt Riddle. Candy Cartwright had filed a lawsuit in October 2020, alleging that Riddle sexually assaulted her while on tour with Evolve Wrestling, while the two were in a weird relationship while Matt Riddle was married. She claimed that the incident occurred in a parking lot following an Evolve event in 2017. And she says Riddle even bragged about it to former Evolve owner Gabe Saplowski. She also alleges Riddle forced her to engage in oral sex in 2018 on a bus with other Evolve talent present. She also said that she had bookings with WWE and Evolve in January 2020, and prior to that, Riddle allegedly forced her to perform sexual acts or she would lose the bookings. She claims that Riddle informed WWE and Evolve that he did not want her working with either company, and she was told issues with talent was the reason she was not booked. She included an email sent from WWE or former WWE extra talent liaison Drake Wirtz, who informed her that her booking with WWE was canceled. Now, there's a lot of people who are taking this as, Cartwright taking an L, putting this up for a win for Matt Riddle. A lot of people saying, look, the suit was dropped, but we don't know why. that maybe this information will come out, but as it stands right now, we don't know why. So there's multiple reasons why that can happen. She could have done it just purely out of financial reasons, which is like, I can't afford a lawyer anymore. That could be just as simple as that. Or they could have reached an agreement. The point is that we don't know. There are no L's or W's to be dealt here at this point. There's really no, we just don't know what the reasons were for the dismissal of the suit. So hopefully there's some sort of resolution for Cartwright in this, and that everyone can move on. But it was a bit of a surprising one. All right, now that we got those couple of tidbits out of the way, let's get to talking about wrestling matches in the weekly wrestling inspection. I'm still here. Before we jump in, we had Anakin JMT leaving us a super chat. Thank you very much, Anakin. Saying obligatory DGMC is a coward super chat. Yes, we should enforce those harshly. Also, Saturday, 1 p.m., join Evan and Anakin on Discord for a Slammiversary prediction stage. Don't be a coward, DGMC. As we mentioned before, 1 p.m. Eastern on the Mr. Warren Hayes Discord. The link is in the description. Join! God damn it, join today. Also want to say hello to Justin Firestein, who has joined us today. Before we get into WWE stuff proper, I just want to tell you guys, I'm going to be talking a lot about Dynamite tonight. Okay? And you can take that with whichever way you want. But the real reason, just to be clear, is that, Tony Khan is sending me bigger checks when I talk more about Dynamite. No, I'm kidding. Of course I am. Just want to perpetuate the myth that I'm some kind of paid shill for AEW for some bizarre reason. This is the kind of rumor that goes around. I don't understand why. But, here's the thing. I will be talking a lot about Dynamite because I thought last night's Dynamite was an absolutely remarkable show. And I feel like talking about stuff that makes me happy. It's just as simple about that. Gonna talk a bit about New Japan. Gonna talk a bit about WWE. And there's a couple of things that happened today. I need to touch on. But let's start talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling because that's always cool. And because we're heading down the road to Summer Struggle, which is the next big event that they're going to hold. There's been a couple of events that have happened, a few things that have been occurring. I'm not going to go through the entire cards because there a lot of multi-man matches, setting up some main event stuff. I think we do need to point out that we are setting up, or when I say we, I mean New Japan, are setting up Kenta versus Hiroshi Tanahashi for Summer Struggle. That's a big time match. That's a kind of thing that I can get behind. I'm excited for that. Clearly the guys are in, they're in these multi-man matches. They don't like each other. They've been cool. I like it. To me, that's one of the main big takeaways of the whole thing. Taguchi clowning Nakamura, right? I don't know if you guys seen this. Good old Taguchi. One of the older junior heavyweights that's there. The coach walking around with a little toy crown and doing the Shinsuke Nakamura entrance, taking the piss. I think it's funny. Odd though that I didn't see any outrage on Twitter in regards to that. Oh my God, companies should keep the other companies out of their mouths. It's so beneath them. Didn't see any of that. Are people starting to enjoy it as much as I do now? Am I shifting the balance? Am I changing hearts and minds? That's what I think. I think this is how I'm blowing the wind and it's heading in that direction, and people are... No, I think it's just people just want to focus on AEW and WWE. But look at that. Look, you literally have a guy in New Japan clowning a WWE guy. I don't hear anyone get mad at it. New Japan, mud show. You can keep your WWE name out of your mouth. I haven't seen any of that. And if anything, it's just absolute proof that core WWE fans, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but core WWE fans don't know what's going on outside of their bubble. They really don't. They follow AEW because apparently a lot of them need something to hate. That's a whole other thing. And I love it when companies take... And you know what? Here's the thing. When companies take shots at each other, it's fantastic. And the thing here is that I'm convinced that Taguchi is just doing it out of just a good old-fashioned rib. He doesn't mean anything out of it, just other than just so that someone will show this to Shinsuke the next day on their phone, like, Shinsuke, look at what Taguchi's doing, and Shinsuke's gonna that son of a bitch, you know, whatever, and he's gonna have a good laugh. Whatever son of a bitch is, you know, in Japanese. I'd like to learn how to say. I think this is something I should focus on. I should get in contact. Maybe Chris Charlton could help me. Get in contact with someone who could teach me how to say son of a bitch in Japanese. And I could just drop that once in a while. I'd like, you know, just to mix it up a little. I don't know. And maybe you know, maybe Chris Charlton be like, no man, I'm not gonna no, Chris Charlton be like, no, I'm not going to teach you how to do that, because he's a nerd. No, I'm sorry. Okay. And we're angling, the main thing, I know it's written, but I want someone to teach me how to, Kusoyaro? It can't be that. Kusoyaro? Yeah, but you're Google, Chad is helping me out, and I appreciate Chad helping me out. Don't get me wrong, but I have 45% faith in Google Translate, my dear fellow Chad. I would much prefer to ask someone who is a native speaker, you know, to be like, yes, this is how you pronounce it, you know, with aplomb. Maybe I could ask my good friend Maki Ito. I mean, she did call me a shithead. I could say, just give her a call. Say, hey Max. That's how I call her now. Hey Max. Jesus, what are we doing here? July 10 of the Summer Struggle shows was El Desperado successfully defending, yes, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship against Taiji Ishimori. I am absolutely 100% starting a petition to stop Tajiri Ishimori's hair. His hair has to end. The fucking colorful rat tail, that shit has to stop. It has to stop. All right? I was reading Emily Pratt's article. Emily is always someone who I enjoy her New Japan reviews. And she said something very, very poignant. She said that people complaining about New Japan main events being too long is kind of like complaining about WWE having too many camera cuts. It's just, you know, we can complain all about it, but it's not changing, and it's something we just have to endure, you know, that we just sort of collectively groan about. And I'm like, she's not wrong. But the fact is that there's still the problem is that the main events are still too fucking long. Because not every main event match that New Japan is setting up has main event players, and this is why I'm doing the warm soda for this, is because there's stuff here there's stuff in this match that happens where I'm like, it's good, but this ain't it either. It really could have been tightened up tremendously into a 20-minute match. It didn't have to go 28 minutes. The same thing happens the very next night when Dangerous Tekkers defend their titles against Tetsuya Naito and SANADA. I think it's a 35-minute match. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, why? Like, there's no reason for them to go that long. It really doesn't. And again, it's like, this is the main gripe. It's the main gripe that we have with New Japan, because the match starts off like, okay, so I'm coming back to the July 10th show with Despi versus Ishimori. The match starts off like a heavyweight match. The guys are going in slow and they're pacing themselves because they're about to go 30 minutes. But I'm like, these are the fucking juniors. The juniors shouldn't be going in slow, methodical paces. It's the goddamn juniors. They're supposed to, the style of wrestling that they offer is a contrast to the heavyweights. So if we're going in and we're like, lockups and positioning, no, we're supposed to kick this off into a gear straight off the bat. It's so weird to me. And the match wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not something that we're going to be clamoring about at the end of the year. This is one that's just going to be like, okay, cool. El Desperado got himself a win. ELP, El Fantasmo ran in, and Kanemaru came in for the save, and that's it. It's like, it's cool. It's like, it really does kind of bother me, because it was structured like a main event world title match, but it's the juniors, man. You can't. That's not how it works. I mean, and there was some cool stuff throughout the match. Ishimori reverses out of a pinche loco at some point and right into a yes lock, which was really good. They have a great final stretch, which is usually the case. I mean, that's not the point. Despi fights back, but not Despi, but yes, Despi does fight back and hits two pinche locos for the win. It's cool. And then after the match, Robbie Eagles hits the Tron to say that he wants to be next to challenge Ishimori. Robbie Eagles, who hasn't wrestled in New Japan since early 2020. And he's done nothing. Now I understand why. Don't get me wrong. I get it. I understand. But it's weird. Robbie Eagles just coming out of nowhere. And it's going to be a good match, don't get me wrong. It's fine. On the July Evans show, we got Master Wato against Shingo Takagi, who debuted a fucking STF on this show. Shingo decided that he was going to add an STF to his repertoire. He's getting himself ready for Kota Ibushi. An STF. And he had this match against Wato, and it's weird because the match with Uemura last week was oodles better than this. And again, not a bad match, but there was much more drama. There was much more of everything. Wato's not bad. He just hasn't found his groove yet. It's strange. It's really strange. And then in the main event, we had Naito and SANADA defeating Taiji and Zack Sabre Jr., the Dangerous Tekkers, to become the new IWGP Tag Team Champions, and I couldn't give a shit. But again, we had over 35 minutes of this. What? There was no reason for this. And here's the thing, is that the match, I thought the first part of the match had a good groove going. I enjoyed the Zack Sabre Jr. SANADA stuff a great deal. SANADA trying to match the Junior's ground game. I think that was fantastic. And some fun double team stuff from Naito and SANADA as well, which I thought was cool. And of course, the final third was very exciting, which I felt like really kicked off when the Dangerous Tekkers had their opponents in stereo submissions. I think that's where the final third really started to pick up. Naito eats a last ride PK combo, and they sold me. I thought that was the end. I thought that was really good. And it ends with Naito hitting a Destino on Zack Sabre Jr. while Taiji is locked in a skull end. Cool. I like the ending. I like the final stretch. But too long. Shave off 10 minutes and you've got yourself a perfectly serviceable main event. Now, are they doing this because they want to give everyone the impression that they got their money's worth on location? The people who are joining them live, it's like, okay, we are giving you the 30-minute main event. Is that the thing? Because I don't know. I really don't know. The two final things that come out of this for me, that shot of Miho crying over Taichi's dead body. Well, not dead. Fallen. Destroyed. I was like, oh. Not unlike Peter Avalon cradling Cesar Bononi, which is still one of the greatest things. And the body, and we got the LIJ roll call, which had been a while, which as an LIJ fan, I'm like, all right. I waited 36 minutes or so to get this. We're okay. We're good. The body language between Naito and Shingo, though, it's really, really interesting. I was paying a lot of attention there, and they don't make much eye contact, and I don't know. But New Japan these days, probably the company that suffered the most from the pandemic. If we're being completely frank, hopefully be back on track with some really exciting stuff really soon, and that they, all this COVID nonsense will stop hurting them as much. Are we ready to talk about WWE? Because here we go. It was revealed, or at least reported, just a couple of hours ago. Just a couple of hours. Well, I'm getting into my happy place, I'm wrapping up my notes and, just like, getting everything ready. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm going to talk about Dynamite a lot because the show was really great. And I'm getting really excited. I'm like, and then it pops up on Twitter, Fightful Select. Oh, okay. We got some spoiler news. Oh, okay. Yeah. What kind of spoiler news? Oh, for SummerSlam. Fine. Come on. I like the fun. Should I check it out? Should I go check it out? I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna go and look up what they're talking about. Fightful Select is reporting that as of today, as of today, and maybe it can change, but as of today, Goldberg is scheduled to return to WWE Raw on Monday's episode at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. That's right. Goldberg is coming back. The question you might be asking yourselves right now is, why is Goldberg coming back? Isn't that the question? Isn't that the thing, right? That's the thing. Why is he coming back? Well, I'm glad you asked. Apparently, the plan at this point is to have Goldberg face Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam on August 21st in Of course, I don't want stiff, old man, guy who can barely lift another guy anymore, Bill Goldberg, anymore. I don't want him involved in my professional wrestling moving forward, but yet he just keeps on coming back. Now, I'm not a dummy, and I read the stuff. I've heard about how his contract has 2 appearances a year for it. Okay, it's fine. So they still had to pull something out. That's cool. Now, and if you want to really come after me, if you really want to like itch at me and go, you go, hey, Warren, yes. Didn't you say recently that you didn't want Drew McIntyre in the title picture for a while? Is it, oh, true, absolutely true. But I will take Drew McIntyre in the title picture anytime over Bill Goldberg. Why? Because Drew Goldberg. I'm sorry, Drew. My God, I'm so sorry. I'll just nuzzle my nose into your huge, voluptuous, hairy chest and to apologize. I'm so sorry. Drew McIntyre is a current WWE superstar that they are building and that they have built as a credible champion, someone who can get the job done. You know what I mean? At this point, Goldberg serves nothing. He's going to show up. I know exactly what's going to happen. He's going to show up and he's going to be all smug and like, Bobby Lashley, are you some kind of punk? You know, it's like, and he's like, well, you haven't beaten me. As it, and then I right now, I have shivers. Here's the thing. There is no fucking way that Bobby Lashley is going to lose the title to Goldberg at SummerSlam. Like, there's no way that's going to happen. So if Robert fights him, that's one thing. And it's going to be terrible. And Goldberg is going to try and do a spear, and he's going to look like he's, running into, diving headfirst into his pool, as opposed to actually doing a spear. But the thing is, you know what's going to happen after this. Goldberg's going to stand up, and he's going to shake Bobby Lashley's hand, and he's going to say, you passed the test, kid. And this is the thing that infuriates me. Goldberg has nothing left, and he's not this pinnacle, this measuring stick. He doesn't have that presence or that aura about him that maybe he had years ago, but has completely eroded since. He's an old guy who has been a cancer in the business. He has been a draw. I will always say this, and I want to every time I go off on one of these, I want to underscore the fact that the guy was a draw. That was his main talent, to be an attraction, to be a guy who was booked so perfectly to hide the entire fact that the guy can't wrestle worth a lick. And somehow we think that 54 years old, he can still go when he can. But then on top of that, here's the thing. On top of it all, if this is the litmus, right, of the fact that WWE has no one lined up as credible champions when they get to their big events like SummerSlam. They have no one lined up. They've built no one. And instead of trying to build someone, it's literally what we used to call break glass in case of emergency, break glass for The Undertaker. Now it's break glass for Goldberg. It makes no sense, and it's a complete exposure of WWE's inability to create compelling stars, compelling adversaries for Bobby Lashley. And the thing is that I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue if I wouldn't have an issue if the Kofi feud continued. It'd actually make sense. Kofi is a former champion, a long reigning one on top of that. But they've got no one lined up. They're not making stars. I don't understand, man. I really don't understand. But this is where we're at. Goldberg back. Stupid. Anakin JMT left us a super chat previously. Thank you very much, Anakin. He says, Bing translate, or we're talking about the translation of son of a bitch in Japanese. He says, Bing translate says, Ino no Iko, so take your pick. It was either Ino no Niko or Kusuyaro. See, so I'd like to check this with a legitimate speaker then, I'd like to see how that works out. PhantomMark82, follow him on Facebook.com/PhantomMark82. Left us a super chat. Thank you very much. He says Goldberg equals Summer. Scram the fuck out of here. Kind of feels like that. And Injection 2K left us a super chat as well. Thank you very much. He says we gotta have Big E cash in on Bobby, right? We gotta have. Is that what? Here, and thank you very much for the super chat, Injection 2K, and I understand exactly where you're going with this. But would you? Does that mean that Goldberg would beat? That Goldberg would beat Injection 2K to the point. Not Injection 2K, that Goldberg, you'd be fine. But that he'd beat Bobby Lashley to the point that Big E could just run in and cash in? Because that's not necessarily a story I'm super excited about either, The match we wanted, that we still want, is Lashley versus Lesnar. That's the one. That was your main event. Brock is too busy being a butcher these days, apparently. I don't know what's up. We'll see how things go. I'm already all sweaty. I'm gonna need a drink of water. Anyway, but we'll see. The next big news that came out of WWE these days. Oh, and look at this. It's Kristen Ashley, the first lady of the Mr. Warren Hayes show. Yeah. Hello, Kristen. Welcome to the chat. JS Brown is here too. Hello, JS Brown. Good to see you. So Mandy and Alyiah were traded this week in WWE. They Mandy Rose, hey noob, good to see you. Mandy Rose showed up on NXT this week, and Alyiah had an angle with what's his name? Robert Stone. She had an angle with him where she sort of ditched him as her manager, and the next thing we know, we find out that she's being called up. So it was essentially a trade, Alyiah for Mandy Rose. Now, Alyiah, been with WWE since 2013, finally getting her call up. She's done everything she's done a bunch of stuff. Not everything, but she's done a bunch of stuff in NXT. She's done singles. She's been in tags, of course, in perpetual losing records. Losing efforts, she's essentially an enhancement talent. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with her on main, especially if they're subbing out Mandy Rose for some bizarre reason. And I don't understand. And in regards to Alyiah, and we had talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we were doing the takeover stage on the Discord. We were talking about, how Aliyah's never improved, but we don't know if she's improved because the business of WWE is so, they produce the matches to such tiny degrees, to such details that you never know what the wrestler is really capable of. They could just be telling her, no, you got to hold back. You can't do this. You can't do that. So we don't know what the girl is capable of. We just don't. We just see her as someone who's always on the losing end and, is unremarkable, but maybe that's what she's been asked to do. Maybe that's what they need up on Maine. Someone who'll just take squash matches. I don't know. We're about to find out. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Mandy Rose, being sent over to NXT, big surprise for me. I think it's a little odd. Of course, she's been around the block in NXT off of her tough enough situations, right? She was a participant in there. But yeah, I mean, she came through the entire WWE system, and it's so incredibly weird that they don't know what to do with Mandy Rose, because she has a look that they love, and she's a model, which is also something that they love. Hell, the Trish Stratus comparisons are through the roof, although I consider Trish Stratus to have a much more natural charisma about her as opposed to Mandy. But Mandy is she's not a slouch, and there's a fair argument to be made that she had been called up way too early from NXT, but the girl improved. She improved tremendously over the past 2 years, and on top of that, wrestling ability aside, despite the fact that she's been legitimately improving, they've been putting her in winning situations for her, and yet they always seem to be pulling her back out, with the Sonya Deville pairing, and then the eventual breakup, the Otis storyline, the Naomi stuff with Jimmy Uso, that was trash. But they've always put her in situations where she can thrive, where her strengths are put forward, and yet they always seem to bring her back down and shove her in a tag team now with Dana Brooke, which was absolutely going nowhere. So of course everything is going nowhere. Very odd, very, very odd that she came all the way back to NXT. I don't know what the plan is for her. I really don't. It's a strange move. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Jimmy Uso is back on SmackDown. They did the whole, they did another table promo, head of the table promo this week with Roman and his cousins, and Jimmy comes out and Jay, and where were you? What were you doing? And there's no repercussions for Jimmy's DUI. There's none. He just said, oh, we'll put him back on TV. I'm not going to sit here and say Jimmy Uso is an alcoholic. I'm not. Because he has to be the one who names it. He has to be the one who puts his finger on it. But I think Jimmy Uso has a problem. And I think it needs to be addressed. And I don't think enabling him in these types of situations is all that significant. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's putting him in a position where he feels like, it doesn't matter. Things are going to still keep moving forward. I'll be okay. This is fourth DUI. Something bad is going to happen. Something bad is going to happen. I know that it's really up to him to get the help that he needs. But clearly he doesn't have a proper support system to guide him in that direction, especially since his multi-million-dollar employer is saying, yeah, we'll just put you back on TV. And they even drop a line. During the promo. They said, let's get through these hard times. Keep your head up and let's get back to work. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And it's not as if he was so exceptionally crucial to this storyline at this point, because Jimmy and Jay they've basically meshed into one man now. They're the same. They're on the same level. Jimmy's not, poking the bear anymore. He's No, he's being submissive. He's letting Roman be the tribal chief, whatever. Like there's nothing. So it's not as if he's essential to what's going on. He's not. And it aggravates me when I see that type of... Am I surprised? That's maybe a little. When it comes to substance abuse and, and addictions, you'd think WWE would be a little more sensitive to that, since this is a business that has had a very contentious relationship with addiction. It's plagued wrestlers for decades and has taken dozens upon dozens upon dozens of wrestlers from us way before their time. We got Jimmy. Again, I'm not saying, I can't speak for him, and I can't say that he is an alcoholic or that he has an addiction issue, but he does have a problem because he's had 4 fucking DUIs. That's a problem. Something bad is going to happen at some point. It's terrible. I can't stand that stuff. I really can't. Something that's pretty cool, though. Oh, and on top of that, wait, before we get into... Bayley gets injured, right? Bayley gets injured. She's going to be out for 9 months. The nature of the injury hasn't been specified. It seems to be her leg. Crossing our fingers that it's not an ACL, because 9 months, 12 months sounds like an ACL. I hope it's nothing too serious. I hope she can get her act together and come back. Well, get her act together. Get better soon and come back. I really do. But this is what WWE did then. They decided to call up some women from NXT and put them on SmackDown. And I'm like, hallelujah. This is exactly the kind of shot in the arm that the women's division needs, right? Really, really, absolutely needs this kind of talent injection. So we had Shotzi, Blackheart, and Tegan Nox, who came up as a team to take on Natalya and Tamina, which, I'm thrilled for Shotzi and Tegan. Shotzi she's been working for this for a long, long time. She's such a fantastic person, great wrestler, just tore it up on the indies, did great work in NXT. I'm glad she's getting her time in the sun there. Tegan Nox, they like her in WWE. They love her. It's just as simple as that. Blows out her knees. They make a big deal out of it. She'll come back stronger. She comes back. She gets hurt again. And they're like, no, we're going to wait for you. She comes back. And not only does she come back to NXT, she goes straight up to main. I mean, they just love her. They just absolutely love her. And I'm glad. I'm glad because these are 2 hungry, super talented women that they're getting up there. No, there's no half measures here. There's not, oh, well, she'll get better as she... No. These are women who are ready for prime time. They know where the hard cam is. They're good to go. Shotzi Blackheart, she's become a member of the One Name Club now. They've dumped the Blackheart. She's just Shotzi now, which is absolutely preposterous. Shotzi Blackheart. Shotzi Blackheart is an absolutely fantastic wrestler name. A fantastic wrestler name. Can't even begin to tell you how great it is. Like, just think about it. Let it resonate. Speak it out loud. Maybe, your better half will be sitting next to you. What the hell are you just saying? That's okay. Warren is telling me to do a thing. Shotzi Blackheart. And now it's just down to Shotzi. I think it was Jeff Hawkins who was saying that it was a great wrestler name on Twitter. I agree. Shotzi sounds like something you'd name your Lhasa Apso, your Poodle, your Bichon Frise. Not a badass wrestler. It's so weird. I don't understand. Like it's a good name, Shotzi. But anyway, Tegan Nox gets to keep her full name. Good, because they just referred to her as Nox, and I was like, no, this stinks. This is bad. And I feel like WWE should be. I feel like they take SEO into consideration a little more. Anyway. I mean, it was an okay match, but here's the thing: is like, I don't mind. Look, they come in and they beat. They being Shotzi and Teagan, pronouns pal. They beat Natalya and Tamina within 5 minutes, and I'm okay with Shotzi and Teagan coming in, getting a big win straight off the bat. I'm absolutely okay with that, but. Why did it have to be on your tag champs? Making them more look even less desirable? Making them look like a couple of goofs even more? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. That makes 0 sense. Come in and they win, and in 5 minutes. Oh, but when it's going to be for the title, though, it's going to be serious. My God, man. And then we also learned that Toni Storm is going to be joining the main roster as well. And I love it. Bayley was like, oh, so you needed 3 women to replace me. Yeah, pretty much, Bayley. That's pretty much the thing. Toni Storm, I'm ready to get excited for Toni Storm. But I still don't see it. Toni Storm in WWE just hasn't been it. Maybe the main roster is the place where she's gonna glow. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, okay, this is what she's been waiting for, kind of thing. Because as it stands, she's she has not been half of what she used to be on the independent circuit. She really isn't. She just really, really isn't. It's so strange to me. And I like Toni Storm. I was excited when she joined NXT UK, and I will hang on to this until the day I maybe not die, because I can still change opinions. But up until this point, Toni Storm's best match happened with Dakota Kai on the opening few matches that happened on NXT UK when they were doing qualifiers for the NXT UK Women's Championship tournament. Or not qualifiers, but they were actually in the tournament. She had a great, fantastic fucking match with Dakota Kai. And she has had very, very ordinary to... There's a couple of bad ones in there. So.
Yeah.
Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much. This is Warren. Pouring water equals Warren wanting the ASMR crowd. That's right. Would you all like a little moment of ASMR for me to sip from my beverage, from my tasty beverage? We could take a minute here so I can drink some water. That's refreshing. I'm branching out, folks. This is how you grow. You have to diversify your content, or at least that's what I've been told. Let's see. I don't want to spend too much time on the WWE stuff. I told you guys this. You know, Drew. The thing with Drew is that he never gets mad. He's always very smug. He's above everything, right? So when the Jinder and his new guys. By the way, the Bollywood dudes, the Bollywood boys, were much better sycophants than these two dudes that Jinder has right now. And you know, they come in and they show that the sword was broken. You know, Jinder's like, "Oh, you think I'd be mad, but in reality, this was just a copy. It wasn't the real deal. You guys, I fooled you guys." And then he beats up Jinder's motorcycle that we just debuted last week. Like, see, Drew never gets mad. He's always smug. He's always like, I'm above all this shit. It doesn't matter. I'm 6 steps ahead. Like, there's no emotional investment in anything Drew does, because Drew's like, there's no reason to get invested, because don't worry about the sword. It's not even the sword. You're thinking about another sword. I'm like, my God. Why can't it just be Drew? Why couldn't it have been the real sword? And then Drew just like tearing the place up. It's like, Jinder, I'm going to destroy everything you hold dear, kind of thing. Not just a silly motorcycle, which turns out is a toy. Just saying. A toy that you can break apart. But I told you, he's smug. He'd be smug. I told you last week, he'd be like, oh no, he'll be like, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, there you go. I was hoping that wouldn't be that. But this is where we were. Just going to point out really quickly that, yes, it's the third time in 3 weeks that we saw John Morrison versus Ricochet, but it was still a fun match. That's the thing, is like, at least the guys are putting in the effort to entertain. It was a bit of a spot fest, and I liked it. Wild neck breaker off the apron by Morrison. It was really, really cool. German suplex by Ricochet. There's a 450 by Ricochet off of the barricade, which was cool. Spots everywhere. A great tope con hilo by Ricochet, who dives over the Miz, was in his little wheelchair, onto Morrison. Like, he got length. Far. He went far. They fight into gorilla position, which I thought was cool. Morrison hits a great spinning DDT. And it ends with Ricochet splashing through Morrison through a table. It was good. That was very easily the best thing on the show. It was good. Am I kind of bored with it? Yes. Yes, I'm kind of bored with it. Would I like to see something? Yes, I'd like to see something else. Did I need to see all these matches before going into Money in the Bank? No, of course not. No one needed that. What are you talking about? 1, 2. I'm hearing an echo in my monitor. Weird. Hope it's not echoing for you folks. I don't know what the problem is. It just sort of popped up. The man known as Killer Kross successfully defended his NXT championship against Johnny Gargano this past Tuesday on NXT. But it turns out that, the whole build-up to this match had very little to do with Johnny Gargano. It was all about Samoa Joe. And if you had any doubt that this build-up had anything to do with Samoa Joe, Killer Kross got Samoa Joe laid out at the end of the match. He attacked him, and I hate that shit. Like, it's like, at least this was transparent. You were trying to make it a big deal between Gargano. Like, they tried to make it about Gargano and Killer Kross, but by making it about Joe also, all the attention shifted to Joe. And why do you think that is? Joe is a known quantity, and it's exciting to see him in NXT again. So people get excited. That's just how it goes. It's just how it goes. It's a bummer, but that's how it goes. Okay, enough of all of that stuff. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite. Now here's the thing. I'm important to preface this before we go forward. There were no 5-star classics on Dynamite last night. Like, there's not a match there that happened in that 2 hours of wrestling that just tore the fucking house down, and you're like, this is absolutely something that you cannot miss. Go out of your way. But everything was solid. Nothing but solid professional wrestling. And on top of that, most importantly, everything on this show mattered. everything mattered. There was not a single thing on this show that was just a throwaway. Everything was there. And there have been Dynamites, which, you know, a lot of my peers and a lot of you and who've been like, this is the greatest Dynamite I've ever seen. And there's been exceptionally good Dynamite. I don't think I left. For me, last night's Dynamite clicked on every level. And while, like I said, we didn't get like a 5-star classic from Kenny Omega or something like that, we got a tight, entertaining, fast-paced 2 hours of wrestling television that you'll be hard-pressed to see again from anyone else. And the pacing of a Dynamite, I think this is one of the marks of its success, and I tweeted that out earlier today. One of the marks of success of AEW Dynamite is the pacing of the show, how they put it together, and how it's like, no, you can't stand up here to go to the fridge. You're going to miss out on something. You're either going to miss out on a match, you're going to miss out on a promo, you're going to miss out on something that is going to bring some value to an existing feud or start something up. Like, there's always something happening. And to me, it's baffling when I get confronted with people who are like, there's too much stuff going on. It's happening too fast. Like, really? Really? I would much prefer sitting down, watching a TV show and feeling like I have to catch my breath rather than making sure that I don't nod off. This, to me, 8-minute promos ain't it. 120 seconds of entrance music per wrestler, that doesn't cut it for me. It's not exciting stuff. But everything just worked. And the crowd was, I mean, I'm gonna, look, I consider all of you watchers, listeners of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show to be above average intelligence, right? So I am fully expecting each and every one of you to never complain about a live crowd ever again. No, but I mean, if I am going to lose my shit the moment I hear anyone say, the audience is doing CM Punk chants, what about... I don't give a shit. I didn't give a shit before, and I give a shit even less now. Because we've lived through over 12 months of professional wrestling without any live crowds. We've got hot live crowds back. The live crowd can do whatever the hell they want. And they can take the show in whatever direction they want. It's part of the show. It's part of the programming. If you didn't watch that show, and and didn't feel like and you didn't feel like it, like everything that happened was elevated and felt more important because of the crowd, then look, no disrespect, but Choco Pro does all of its shows in a little gymnasium in front of no one. They've been doing that for years. Maybe not years, but for a long time. That's the show for you. Please go enjoy it. There's no crowds there. It'll be great for you. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Show started off with Jon Moxley versus Karl Anderson for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. And it was fought under New Japan rules. The only detail that was missing here, the only thing that I would have changed, because it was perfect, Excalibur taking the time to explain it, 20-second count out, 60-minute time limit, of course, because all titles in New Japan are fought under a 60-minute time limit, but of course it wasn't going to go 60 minutes, folks. It was the opener. But, the 20-second count out was cool. The only detail I would have changed here, the tiny little thing I would have changed, I would have had the referee wear a New Japan referee polo shirt. That's the only thing I would have changed. Other than that, this was a great opener. Crowd was hot for Jon Moxley. God damn, they were happy to see him. chanting along to Wild Thing. The geeks out there still trying to convince us that Wild Thing is not a good theme song. There's still people out there trying to convince us that it doesn't work. Eddie Kingston runs in to take out Gallows, Dr. Gallows. I don't know why I'm stumbling over his name so much. Crowd goes ape shit for it. Moxley and Anderson, they do a good old fashioned New Japan brawl. Strong styling each other, fighting outside of the ring. There's a superplex, lots of back and forth. A gun stun by Anderson, but Mox gets the pin after a paradigm shift. Clean as a whistle. 1, 2, 3. And then go backstage where Lance Archer challenges John Moxley for the title on night 2 of Fyter Fest next week in Dallas, which is, from what I understand, is Lance Archer's hometown. And Archer saying, you know what? You beat me for this title, 18 months ago or wherever. I don't remember. It's been so long. But indeed. And he's like, I'm due for my rematch. And I'm like, yeah, and let's do a Texas death match just like we did in Japan. I'm like, sure. Let's do this shit. Let's make it happen. My God, man. And this all happening within the first quarter. A great hot match to open up the show, and you're already setting up a match for next week. A match that makes sense. All you had to do was dive into history. And then all of a sudden it all makes sense. All right, I'm good with this. Let's do it. Ricky Starks is the new FTW champion. He defeated Brian Cage. I love how Brian Cage throughout this match was doing a couple of power moves. He did a press and a slam, and he was always caring for Ricky Starks' neck. You could tell, he was just following through the movement with his hand, making sure that Starks' neck was well protected. That's class, man. And that's I always say it's the little things. It's these little things that I'm glad I'm able to pick up on. I don't know if you guys saw that too, but Brian Cage looking after the boys. That's fantastic. He hits this great pump handle flipping slam at some point. I don't even know what to call it. It was great. Ricky Starks hits a last ride on him. Sort of had to set him up on the ropes. It was a fun match. It was strong. At some point, Starks wants to use the TNT title, the FTW title, to crack Cage over the head with it, but Hobbs is like, nah. Will Hobbs was on the outside with Hook. Gotta underscore that for the hashtag Hook gang. He says, no, we're not using the title. Oh. But eventually Hook does distract Brian Cage and the ref, and Hobbs cracks Cage across the head with the belt. And Starks gets the cover, wins the title. Now, again, people are, I don't understand why that happened. I understand why it happened. You know why it happened? Because people after that were convinced that Brian Cage was going to win. That is what you call a misdirection. It's just a plain, simple misdirection. Because at that point, everyone was convinced that Cage is winning this. But no, they swerved. It's like, no, we got you. We just got you. I liked it. And the pop that Ricky Starks got for his entrance, hometown. Or at least his adoptive town. This is where Ricky Starks came up. He's originally from he's from the South. I want to say Alabama, but that's not right. Louisiana, right? I'm pretty sure he's from Louisiana. If chat wants to confirm that for me, that'd be great because you guys are awesome. New Orleans. There you go. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, chat. You guys are awesome. So yeah, but he was in his adopted hometown, and people just went nuts, and that's fantastic stuff. That's just good. That's just good. Reward people for watching your fucking program. You know, for buying tickets. Cody and Tommy End have a promo. At least Cody comes out and he's mad, and he grabs a headset from Excalibur or whoever, and they're Tony Schiavone, and he says, "Hey, I'm mad because what's his face, Tommy Black, he not super kicked, but he spin kicked an old man." And Arn Anderson, I wonder how much Arn appreciates being called an old. I'd never have the level of relationship that Cody has with Arn Anderson. So I'm assuming that he has the proper level of relationship with him to be able to call him an old man without Arn Anderson tearing his face off. Because I wouldn't do that. But he says, Tommy End, you kicked an old man. You just don't do that shit here. And then Tommy End appears on the screen. He's in a black room. He's got smoke, and he's talking about, what was he talking about? Horses, taking a horse out to pasture. I think that's literally what he was talking about. Like he used the expression that everyone knows in the most roundabout way to do it. And then Cody's in the ring, and he's like, "Motherfucker, just come in." He didn't say that specifically, but he's like, "Hey, you stop talking, come and fight." The lights go out. The Fiend appears. No, it's Tommy End is in the ring, and they just start going at it. Pull apart brawl. This was so close, this close to not being good. Because there was the Aleister Black stuff, it was not clicking. The Malachi Black, the Tommy End stuff. I thought it was bringing it down. And I'm like, what are we looking at here? Tommy End leaves WWE, and he's back in black rooms, cutting promos into a camera in black rooms. And it's a little too long and a little too, just a little too weird, I guess. It's like, we don't need all of this. Then Cody's like, "Come out and fight." And he's like, "Okay, fine." And it redeemed the whole thing. I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're good." And because that's what we want. That's all we want. We just want wrestlers to wrestle. That's all.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to maintain this. You guys know that I have very conflicted emotions when it comes to Cody Rhodes. It's not my favorite guy. I think he's a little too self-involved. But there is one guy who has the track record for putting people over, for doing good work with other wrestlers in the company and getting them over. It's him. Tommy End could not be in a better position right now to get himself over than wrestling with Cody, being in a program with Cody. Because Cody's going to do the right... If Cody wants to build a star for his goddamn company, well, he's going at it the right way. He really is going at it the right way. And as long as it doesn't turn into too weird, unless it doesn't get too weird, we'll be okay. DGMC left us a super chat. Thank you very much, DGMC. I appreciate it. He says, "Could Cody versus Black be embrace the hate done right?" Right. It was Kane and John Cena, right? That was a couple of years ago, right? I I'm trying to remember. It was, it was John Cena and Zack Ryder was involved in it. Right. And Kane was trying to get Cena to go over to the dark side, right? No, I hope they don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. No embracing the hate. I just want them to beat each other up. Like, Cody's mad. Fine, let's just ride that. I love it. Just wanted to keep going down that path. Hey, you want to talk about something else I loved? The Hangman Adam Page promo. It's great stuff. Page comes out, huge reaction. You know why? People like him. You know why? Because he's built like a star. Treat him as a star, people will see him as a star. He comes out. He's like, I want a shot at the title. You hear Don Callis' voice, but of course he's not alone. And he's not just coming with Kenny Omega. It comes out with the whole elite bunch. They start talking shit. Matt Jackson takes the microphone and says, I have something to say. And he walks to the ring gets into it. Gets into the ring. I love that. Such a great touch. Because of the history that they developed. They being the Young Bucks and Hangman over the whole lead up into Revolution 2020. You know, Matt didn't like Hangman. So of course Matt is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to go talk some shit to this bastard. Nitpick? You want me to nitpick a second? I'll just nitpick a wee bit here. I thought Matt was a little too corny. I think he could have been a little more edgy, he could have been a little more incisive. It's like, kind of like he was, you know, when feuding with Kenny and Hangman, when the Young Bucks were feuding with them. You'd have been like, But I thought he was being a little too goofy, when I think because of the history, this could have been really well served. And look at this. We all understood the history of this moment without having a 3-minute promo package to explain to us, to remind us of, oh, well, these two have a long storied rivalry. It's like, no, if you've been paying attention, which, you know, if you're watching a television show, you should be, you picked up on it. They all sort of move around to try and get at Hangman, and the Dark Order run in to serve as his backup. Yeah. Fantastic stuff. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And it all leads into a 5-on-5 match next week. And you know what? This match has stakes. Big ass stakes. Hangman is like, if I win, Kenny's like, if you win this match, this 5-on, bring some of your goons, and if you win the match, if you can beat us in a 5-on-5 elimination style, and this is going to be so good. If you can beat us elimination style, I'll give you your title shot, Hangman Adam Page. And Page is like, I ain't letting my boys fight for nothing. If we win, I get my title shot, and they get a shot at the Bucks tag titles. I'm like, this is perfect. This is so good. And in an elimination style match. I like this because now it's like, you know what? Hangman really likes the Dark Order. He's like, nah, I'm sticking my neck out for them here. I'm doing something for these guys who have always had my back. I'm doing something, giving them something in return. And it's fantastic. And right now I am salivating at the idea of Evil Uno and Stu Grayson going full on SSB circa 2014 on the Young Bucks. I am so ready for this. I have no idea. It's going to be this, and look at how simply everything was set up. Great drama. Everyone knew their roles. And you got yourself another big match with stakes set up next week. Everything on this show matters. Everything on this show fucking matters. It's so fantastic. I love this shit so much. And I love the Dark Order. And I know the Dark Order is not everyone's cup of tea.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Anakin. I appreciate it. He says Kenny looked like he panicked when he said belt collector. He popped himself with how bad it was. when he was telling the audience to shut up because they were chanting cowboy shit. And he goes, they won't be shouting that anymore. They'll be chanting belt collector. Belt collector. And I started laughing because it's the worst possible chant. But Kenny's personality right now makes it work. It's just perfect. Absolutely perfect. Evan Wright left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Oh, it's for Fight for the Fallen. It's not next week. For Fight for the Fighter Fest Fight for the Fallen. I legitimately get confused. So it's in 2 weeks. Whatever. Look, they're setting up matches 2 weeks from now. What do you want from me? Evan Wright left us a super chat, though. Thank you very much. Says, Hangman said, we in the Dark Order don't back down. There you go. I love it. I love that he's given back. Matt Hardy versus Christian is a match that happened. I've been very vocal about it. I didn't give a shit about this feud. I didn't care about it. But look here. Look, listen. This is the thing. It happened on the card. They didn't stretch out this feud longer than it needed to be. I think it reached its apex right there. There was no reason to stretch this out any further. It worked. And you know what? It was a well-fought match. Strongly fought. Nothing to say. It just didn't work for me. Didn't click. I thought it was a little long. Not a big deal. Just little nitpicks. But what I'm appreciative of here is that hopefully we're done with the feud. I'm glad that they brought it to a climax. And you know what? The position that it had on the card was a perfect, just a little level. I don't want to call it a cool down match outright. But, it did serve to sort of give a reset for the audience after an electric first few quarter hours. I'm like, Christian Cage, he has one big world title match in him. I swear to God. He's got one in him that he's keeping close to the hip. And when he gets the shot, he's going to deliver it, and people have been saying for years he's the better worker. He was always the better worker between him and Edge. And I agree. Who would have thought that in 2021 we'd be watching Christian Cage have matches on television and be like, man, this is good stuff. This is super solid. It's good. I'm glad it's done. We're moving on. We're continuing with the Jurassic Express stuff. I'm excited for it. Nicholas Nutter, want to say hello. Welcome to the chat. Sammy Guevara and Wheeler Yuta. I mean, here's another one that had that mattered, because Yuta has been showing up on the dark shows. He's been a protege of the Best Friends, which I think is fantastic. And he was having his debut against Sammy Guevara, who is one of the next big things for AEW, right? So Sammy gets an enhancement match. Wheeler Yuta is on television working in front of the biggest crowd maybe he's ever worked in front of at this point, which is amazing. And I mean, this is a big testament as to how much AEW likes the guy. And there's a lot to like because he's fantastic. He's a great indie guy that is unquestionably going to be signed. I think, if anything, if AEW wants to pick him up, it's now. That has to happen now. Great little match. Sammy looked like $1 million. Yuta didn't seem out of his depth. He's good to go. Bring on the guy. Penelope Ford lost to Yuka Sakazaki, who was making her big return to AEW, to a great pop, a great reaction. I saw a lot of commentary today, read a lot of commentary, heard a lot of commentary about how AEW fans didn't forget about her. That they that AEW fans didn't need a 3-minute recap about everything she did during her previous tenure in AEW to be like, oh yeah, you remember this girl? No, because AEW likes to think that people have brains and don't need to be fucking spoon-fed everything. They don't, that they don't retcon everything every 5 fucking months or something. That's just like, yeah, and they actually encourage you to remember stuff and to be like, oh yeah, this happened that way. I remember that. This is fine. I mean, it's, again, not a 5-star classic, but absolutely fine. Yuka does a cannonball off the second rope to the floor, which was great. Penelope Ford does a Muda lock at some point, and the Magical Girl wins with the Magical Girl splash for the win. And I think Penelope Ford is high in the running of most improved wrestler of 2021. Or am I completely off base here? I think there's her, Tai Conchi, but Penelope. See, the thing is that Conchi always had something, like she had the combat combat fighting experience. Like she had some more than great fundamentals. Like she really had things that helped her stand out. Penelope's run so far, or at least up until recently, was marred with, it was a little bit soft. It wasn't, a little messy, a little sloppy at times. I found that her most recent outings have shown us a completely different Penelope Ford. I think she is tremendously improved. Showed it in this match. I think her and Ty, there's definitely a discussion there, but man, Penelope, I'm going to be using the same type of argument with Penelope that I was using in regards to Nyla Rose when I talk about Nyla Rose and say, well, Nyla was back then, or at least Nyla, when she started, I couldn't watch her matches. Or at least I wasn't looking forward to them because I didn't think she was very good. And then all of a sudden in 2020, she's like a completely different beast. I kind of feel like it's the same way with Penelope Ford now. It's good stuff. like I'm really excited for it. And the main event was Darby. Main event, Darby Allin. How many Dynamites has he main evented this year? It's got to be his 4th. Has to be, easily, right? In the coffin match, don't call it a casket match, against Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky was hiding in the coffin to begin with, and he ambushed our boy Darby. But Sting comes out. Of course, Dad has to come protect the boy. And he and Scorpio Sky, they brawl into the audience, which was a lot of fun. There was a lot of stuff going on. The nitpick, Darby does a dive off of the balcony, and it's during a commercial break. Oh, but I'm in the UK, Warren. I was able to see it all. Well, I didn't. All right? It was during a commercial. I'm like, why did they do this during the commercial? This is a big spot. Page unscrews a ring cable, and he uses like the hook and stuff to sort of beat Darby up. The ring steps are in the ring. Page, he's been like, this is Darby's match, right? He's always outclassed when it comes to strength and power moves, and Page uses it to stay on top of things. They even fight in the coffin at one point. Big spot when Darby gets razor's edged off of the second turnbuckle and onto the stairs. He landed so hard on the stairs bent. Darby fights back. He pulls out a skateboard, does an ollie off the top turnbuckle onto Page's back, and Page falls into the coffin. Darby closes the coffin, wins the match. Then he climbs up to the top turnbuckle and does a fucking coffin drop onto the coffin. It's so meta. I loved it. I'm telling you, this was I love this. I love this episode of Dynamite so much. I think there was nothing wrong, nothing outrightly egregiously wrong with this episode. Everything connected. The crowd made this show special. And then look at what happens the next day. Look at what we hear about the next day. We hear, and you guys know I don't talk much about ratings, but when I do, it's always because there's something happening. AEW, over 1 million viewers. It's what they did last night. Beat Raw in the key demo. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Now the question is, will they be able to sustain? That's a whole other 9 yards. But if last night was your first exposure to Dynamite, minimal shenanigans, nothing out of left field to ruin your comprehension. If you look at the excitement that this crowd was going through, if you tuned in for the first time to watch that show last night, I think there's a fair chance to say you'll probably give it another watch. You'll probably give this, because it was just a dynamic, fast-paced, exciting show. And I still have people telling me. I still have people telling me. Too many people on the show. Confused people. Too many people on the show. Too many factions. Goes too fast. They need to slow it down a bit. No, they don't. You've been conditioned into believing that WWE's way of producing television is the only way to do it. And too many people. I sincerely hope, deeply, profoundly, sincerely hope that anyone who tells me that there are too many people on an episode of Dynamite have never watched a Game of Thrones show and enjoyed it. That's it baffles me. It absolutely baffles me. WWE has been putting on the exact same type of show for the past 2 decades. The formula is the same. And they've been doing it for 20 years. What has been happening? They've been losing viewership. They have not been able to reclaim the audience that they've lost. AEW Dynamite, within a couple of years, not even a full 2 years of existence, is hitting $1 million deals, multi-million dollar deals, but million viewerships for its 1 hour wrestling program on Wednesday nights. I don't understand it. Ticket sales have become the new ratings thing. Now, people talk about ticket sales now because of the, of all the because of Showbiz Daily going down and no one can talk about the ratings so openly anymore. But now we've got ticket information. That's what everyone's talking about. Friggin' the shows for the Arthur Ashe Stadium, tickets for the Arthur Ashe Stadium show in September. The AEW did a pre-sale, sold what, like 6,000 tickets in like 2 hours, something like that, in the 2 hours it was open. WWE has sold 8,000 tickets of its Madison Square Garden show. And they've been selling tickets for 6 days, and they have sold 8,000 tickets. If you don't think AEW is going to sell out the Arthur Ashe Stadium show, you're ridiculous. You really are. They're going to sell out that show. It's going to be a hot ticket. And this is not good. Madison Square Garden. Look, the thing. There's so much I want to say at once here. Madison Square Garden is the WWE stomping grounds. It's hallowed halls for the company. That's where WWF is intertwined in the history of Madison Square Garden, making it what it is today. It's the most famous arena in the world. It is, to this day, an arena that is centrally located in New York and easy to access. Like, it's not like out in the boonies where you have no public transit or anything, or like limited parking or whatever, or just one road to get into. This is their home. It's New York. If you don't see that, if it's a problem, if you don't see this as a problem for WWE to have a show in their signature arena to a certain degree, and are unable to sell it out, when the competition, who has never held a show in New York, well, officially, never held a show in New York, just waltzes in, takes on a stadium, it's like, yeah, we're good. We're going to fill this one up, pal. And it's a taping. It's not a house show that WWE's putting on. It's a TV show taping. It's a Friday night SmackDown show. It's a Friday night SmackDown show that they had to announce that it's like, oh yeah, it's SmackDown, but it's going to be a super show because we're also going to have stars from Monday Night Raw showing up. Because they know the ticket sales are failing. If they're going to pull something out of their bag, they're going to try and get John Cena on the show. They're going to try and get Brock Lesnar at the Garden show for sure. They're probably clawing at Undertaker's feet. Come back for one more show. They're going to do something. But at this stage right here, are you kidding me? If you don't think AEW is a hot product right now, I don't know what to tell you. Objectively. The facts are there. People are buying the tickets. They're going to the shows. Don't get me wrong. AEW, and not AEW, but WWE, they sold out their show this Friday. The return. And thank God they did. But it's sold out. They're doing good business on their other shows. It's not a disaster. I think they're at, last time I checked, they were at 85% sold out for Money in the Bank this weekend. It's not a disaster, but it's the symbolism right now of WWE running MSG and not being able to fill it up, while the upstarts are in their territory and they're already selling out tickets. That's weird. That's weird and wild and wild and weird. And on top of that, here's the thing that we have to keep in mind. You know, WWE hasn't run a show in a while in Madison Square Garden because Madison Square Garden is an expensive venue to run for television, especially. Why are they doing it? You know, it's like, why are they going back to MSG? If it's so expensive, and they just wanted to show off because they saw, from what I understand, there was a concert cancellation that night, and WWE sort of swooped in because AEW had announced that they were going to do a show at the Arthur Ashe Stadium, and they were like, okay, well, we'll try and take some tickets away, but no, it's not working that way, man. It's not working that way. And you can come up with whatever reasons you want, but the plain simple truth is that WWE, if it was a good hot product that people wanted to see, MSG would be full at this point. It really would. Or close to. Not just barely scraping along. And that's the weekly wrestling inspection. And on that note, we are going to wrap up today's edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Thank you very much for joining me today. And, Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Just to wrap this one up, he says that he loves Darby as a go-to main event guy on Dynamite. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's proof, right, that AEW is just building these guys, putting them in these main event setups, and just like, go, man, go.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep trying. We're gonna keep trying to build new guys. Not always put the same people on top, and it's exciting to see. I like it. And that again left us another super chat. He was counting down the amount of time I was going to talk about AEW tonight. 42 minutes 33 seconds. Not bad. Especially considering since I talk a lot about WWE usually because they do like 7 hours of programming a week, and I try to cover as much as I can. And I AEW is always sort of like, but last night was too special. I wanted to spend some time on it. Stick around on the channel, folks. Free preview of my post show. The post show that we all lovingly refer to as Warren is Off the Clock is going to be starting up in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to go splash some water on my face and come back so we can talk some more wrestling. We're going to be talking about Money in the Bank this weekend. So it's a free preview for what I usually do for the YouTube members instead of it being behind the paywall tonight. It's free to access so that you can check out how cool it is to be a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. So come on over. I chat with you in the chat. We take Discord calls at the same time. It's a good time. So hang around the channel. I'm going to be pulling up a stream in a minute or two. So I'm excited to see you all there. Please come and join us. The party's not done. Please don't ever let me do that again. Please, 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 please. But I want to thank everyone for joining me this evening. It was another fun one. Appreciate all your presence. Appreciate your support. Always, always, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening. Have a great weekend full of wrestling. And we'll see you next time.